of the Foundation for Middle East Peace, who is co-sponsoring this event with us, and we're very proud of that association. It's one of many series of events that we hold together. This is an exceptionally significant presentation that we have for you today, where we will introduce to you one of the foremost diplomats and politicians, and I would say statesmen of the Arab world, Minister Marwan Muasher. Marwan, of all things, has a PhD degree of computer engineering. That's his background for you. And from then on, things started going He started his career in journalism in Jordan, and then joined the Ministry of Planning for a few years, and eventually got himself started in the Foreign Service, where he came to Washington, D.C., where he was in charge of the information department at the embassy, and then eventually was the first Jordanian ambassador to Tel Aviv, a most unusual assignment. I'm sure he will talk about it. And then he came back to Washington as an ambassador of Jordan to the United States, and then back to Amman, where he was deputy prime minister and got heavily involved in the peace process as we have come to know it. And from then on, he tackled the other issue in his next assignment, which was reform within the system in Jordan. He is the first to write about it, about this connectedness between foreign policy issues and reform within in the Arab world, the two pillars of what I might call lack of development in the Arab world. He has been real, he has been serious, he has been realistic, and he has paid a political price for that, so that means that he has had the courage it takes to be a statesman. He will tell you this story. It is our singular pleasure to welcome our friend Marwan Muasher.
Thank you so much, Ziad and Phil, for hosting this. To be a moderate in the Arab world these days might be described as an act of courage, a leap of faith, or just plain suicidal. But there's not been a time in the region when moderation is more needed than it is today. And when I thought of a title for the book, I struggled with how to describe the different experiences that I went through. But I thought that there would be no better description than an Arab center, or the need for an Arab center. By an Arab center, I mean Arab moderation, but I also mean moderation across the board, not moderation when it comes to one issue only, but moderation across all issues of interest to the Arab world. Arab moderation, both to the West and in the region, has been really linked only to the peace process, which is only part of the picture, and in my opinion is why today Arab moderation is on the defensive and on the decline. But let me start first by saying some things about Arab moderates and what they did for peace. Because contrary, I think, to conventional wisdom, or where most of Western thinking on the Arab world has been focused on the extremists in the region and very little on Arab moderates on peace do exist. They not only exist, but they have been very proactive in putting forward initiatives to solve the Arab-Israeli conflict peacefully in recent years. In fact, I claim in the book that all of the initiatives, all of them, who have come in the last decade have come from Arab moderates. Whether it is the Arab Peace Initiative of 2002, which charted a very clear framework for peace between Israel and not just the Palestinians, but every single Arab state, all 22 of them. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Or the roadmap which charted a course to get to that solution. Both these initiatives came from the Arab Center. Unfortunately, neither Israel nor the United States took these initiatives seriously. The United States gave it only lip service, and once the war on Iraq started, all the United States' attention was focused on the war on Iraq. Israel also did not take the Arab Peace Initiative seriously, even though, in my opinion, that initiative really addressed all of the needs of not just the Israeli state, but Israeli citizens. The initiative was based on the idea that if Israel is to feel secure, that security has to be guaranteed not just by the Palestinians, but by the whole Arab world. And so the whole Arab world in the initiative committed to a collective peace treaty with Israel, collective peace treaty with all 22 Arab states, collective security guarantees by every single Arab state, an end to the conflict, meaning that Arabs are not going, once a Palestinian state is established, call for a return to Jaffa or Haifa or pre-1948 Palestine, and an agreed solution to the refugee problem, sending a clear signal to Israel that Arabs do not intend to send back 4 or 5 million refugees back to Israel. So if peace today is not there, it is not because of the lack of trying on part of Arab moderates. And I describe in sometimes excruciating detail some of the debates that went on inside the Arab League to have a Western reader understand that Arab moderates were not on the defensive. In fact, they were on the offensive. They had to deal with radical positions inside the Arab fold. They fought to get their position out there, and they prevailed in both the Arab Peace Initiative and in the roadmap. Most Arab politicians kiss and don't tell. They are in office, usually for a long time, but they don't document their experiences, either because they want to go back to office, either because they don't want to be very candid, or for a variety of reasons. And when they do document, they usually do that in Arabic. Rarely do they do it in English. And this is, in my opinion, one of the rare attempts of documenting an experience of an Arab politician in English, so that the history of the region is not just written by outsiders, but also by Arabs. And I feel very strongly about it, and one of the principal reasons why this book is in English, although it has already been translated to Arabic also and will appear in Arabic in about 2 months. It's a first-hand account. I don't write about events I did not participate in. And other than the history of the conflict, which everybody has to give so that a reader has a complete picture, other than that chapter, everything in the book is a first-hand account. So that I write about events where I participated in, where I was inside the room, where I had a say in the decisions that were made, whether on peace and on reform. But beyond that, I also tried to make it human. And so there are a lot of anecdotes that attempt to explain, again to a Western reader, some of the dilemmas that we go through in the Arab world and some of the psychological divides that we have to cross in making peace with Israel, divides that both individuals and countries will have to go through. There is the anecdote of when I was asked to become ambassador to Israel. In this country, this would certainly be looked at as a great honor. To me, it was the most difficult week in my life. And although I was the spokesman of the Jordanian delegation and I had participated in negotiations with Israel for 4 years, the idea of actually going and living there was extremely troubling to me, as it was to certainly my compatriots and my family. And I talk about this experience in great detail to explain again what divides one has to cross, or the time I visited my mother's house. My mother is a Jordanian of Palestinian origin. And she lived in Jaffa. And the time I went and visited her house based on a picture she gave me and the name of the street, which I was able to find. Or the time I attended Israel's Independence Day, which to all Arabs, including myself, is the anniversary of our tragedy, of the Nakba. All the dilemmas that one goes through when you have these experiences. There's also a chapter about King Hussein and the last 6 months of his life. I was ambassador here in the United States, and again I witnessed some very important events that were not written about until now. The succession issue and how and why it was brought. And I claim I saw that through a unique perspective in being in Washington with His late Majesty. Above all, this book talks about why the Arab Center today is on the defensive, why the Arab Center today is on the decline. And again, I make the point that Arab moderates have so far been moderates on peace only. When you talk about an Arab Center on peace, you can certainly point to such countries as Jordan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, certainly the Palestinian National Authority. But when it comes to reform, it's very difficult to find an Arab Center, whether in form of countries or even in form of a force. Arab moderates on reform are usually not moderates on peace. And there's a dichotomy there, where people where people are selectively moderate. And because they are selectively moderate, and because Arab moderates on peace have not been able to deliver on the one issue that they promised their people to do, and because they have not addressed other issues of major concern to Arab society, political reform, economic development, cultural diversity, they have lost credibility. We have nothing to show for our efforts. We have been concentrating on the Arab-Israeli conflict for the last 40 years, since Nasser days, when Nasser in the 50s talked about لا صوت يعلو فوق صوت المعركة, no voice is allowed to rise over that of liberation. Well, we did not deliver liberation, and we did not deliver bread also. And therefore, people are starting to flock to religious forces. Not necessarily because they believe in their ideology, but because if they only have two choices, both of which are not delivering on peace, they at least are opting for the choice which is promising clean government to them. And unless Arab moderates understand this and understand that the status quo is not sustainable, and understand that if they want to keep power, they have to share it, and understand that unless you develop a system of checks and balances where you have political diversity and you have third and fourth and fifth alternatives, unless you do that, the future is grim. There are two schools of thought in the Arab world today. The traditional school of thought, which says that if you open up the system, the religious forces come in. And therefore, their solution is not to open up the system, is to keep it closed. Of course, that solution is not supported by historical fact. Who have heard 25 years ago of Hezbollah or Hamas? No one. And why? Because they did not exist. Today, they not only exist, they are the most popular in the Arab world. And so the continuation of a closed system has not weakened religious forces in Arab society. On the contrary, it has made them stronger. And whereas an immediate opening of the system certainly will give the Islamists, the religious forces, a head start of 40 or 50 years, we cannot escape at least a gradual but serious opening up of the system if we are to reverse the trend and the radicalization that is happening in the Arab world today. And so the counter-argument of the reform forces in the Arab world is, if you don't open up the system, the religious forces come in. Unfortunately, the first argument so far is winning the day. And those who are calling for reform are often accused of being American agents. And this is something that we encountered in Jordan, and something that most reformers in the Arab world are encountering also. The United States has not helped, certainly, and the Bush administration has certainly not helped on the issue of reform. They have taken an issue of reform without much credibility, particularly after Iraq, and without much credibility, particularly after the results were not, the ones that the Bush administration has hoped for. But that does not mean that Arab reformers should be, should feel they cannot talk about reform for fear of being described as American agents. After all, Arab reform is for Arab's sake. It's not for the United States' sake. It's for the betterment of Arab society. And I believe that Arab moderates need to be at the forefront of that process if we are to arrive at a society where diversity is truly seen as a source of strength and not as a source of weakness. And that is perhaps one of the principal conclusions of the book. But going back to the cause of peace, before I conclude, I also, even though I'm a product of the gradual process, of the Oslo process, and the Oslo process has done a lot in terms of mutual recognition, in terms of breaking down psychological barriers, in terms of starting a process of negotiations, which was not possible before. And so I very much believed in the Oslo process. I no longer believe that a gradual approach to solve the Arab-Israeli conflict is useful. Why? Because any time we have seen, any time we give the process time, that time has been used by the opponents of peace to derail the process, and they have very successfully done that on both sides, on the Arab side and on the Israeli side. Fortunately, however, we are at a point where the framework of a solution is there. And is there not because the United States imposed it. It is there as a result of negotiations among the parties themselves. And today, if you look at frameworks such as the Clinton parameters, or the Taba talks, or the Arab peace initiatives, or the Middle East roadmap, you have a number of frameworks which very, I would claim, in detail outline what a final settlement might look like. We are not looking for a solution today. We are looking for a political will to make that solution happen. And that is why, if there is any suggestion that I would give to the incoming administration, Democrat or Republican, it is that they should take on the Arab-Israeli conflict in their first term. History has also shown that no American president has attempted to do it in his second term and succeeded. No one. And some people tell me, well, maybe that's why the people who succeeded in the first term were not re-elected. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. But whether it was Carter with the Camp David Accords, or whether it was George Bush Sr. with the Madrid Conference, both presidents were able to do it because they did it in their first term. A U.S. president in their second term will do it too little, too late, and will have no credibility because they will be looked at as a lame duck administration, and no one will take them seriously. Will this happen? Will the United States take on the Arab-Israeli conflict in their first term? It's very doubtful, frankly. The United States is still focused on other issues in the Middle East. But if we keep this compartmentalization of issues, if we think that Iraq has nothing to do with the peace process, or the peace process has nothing to do with terrorism, or Al-Qaeda solving the problem of Al-Qaeda is totally separate from solving the Arab-Palestinian issue, let us look at history again. Al-Qaeda was marginal in the Arab world until the war on Iraq. Today it is sitting in the core, in the center of the Arab world. And unless we understand that, and unless I think we all, Arabs and Israelis, but also the United States, work towards a two-state solution and fast, we are going to have to deal with radicalization for a very long time to come. The irony of the process today is that a two-state solution has clearly become in the interests not just of the Arabs and not just of the Palestinians, but also of Israel. If a two-state solution is not affected, and soon, Israel is going to be faced with a situation where the number of Arabs in, historic Palestine between the river and the sea will outnumber the number of Jews in very, very few years. And then what does Israel do? They can't opt for a one-state solution because a one-state solution means the destruction of Israel. I hope they don't think of having an indefinite occupation, because I don't think anyone in the international community would accept that. And if a two-state solution is not there, you will only have to deal, Israel will have to deal, as well as the Arab world, with the radicals for a very long time to come. The United States will have to deal with the radicals for a very long time to come. If this is the kind of solution that we are looking for, then the least we can do is warn against it. Arab moderation is there, but it is clearly on the decline, and unless we both help it and unless it helps itself, in few years we are not going to see Arab moderates any longer with any influence to talk about in the Arab world. On that note, I end my speech. Thank you.
Now you have a clearer idea about the statesman that is Marwan Muasher. Just buy the book. Just buy the book.
Who grew up away from your country. Now is the time to work in your field of profession and help rebuild Iraq. OSS offers the best job opportunities. If you have a degree in medicine, engineering, accounting, teaching, or other, you have 5 years of experience. You are an American citizen, British, Canadian, German, or other. You speak English and Arabic. You can call us now at 910-425-4900. Fax your resume, or even apply online at www.ossiraq.com.
شركة OSS بحاجة لملء هذه الوظائف بأسرع وقت ممكن. الاختصاصات: الاقتصاد، المحاسبة في الوظائف الحكومية، المجال الطبي، الهندسة المدنية، إدارة الأعمال، مستشارين في مجال الثقافة والدين. لمزيد من المعلومات اتصل على الرقم التالي 910-425-4900.
This is your chance to enhance your career and rebuild Iraq.
What can I say? It's in my blood. Racing, the STP, it really gets me going.
Because Marathon gasoline with STP provides extra cleaning power and helps maintain fuel economy?
That's right. I see all Marathon gas now contains STP additives.
My customers really appreciate it.
Yeah, STP's always been a winner. See y'all.
Remember, pit road speed.
Marathon, fueling the American spirit.